Welcome back to the Set of the Gloves Are Off. We're going to continue on with Dump and Change. And remember, guys, if you don't like a topic, you can dump it, and we will move on to the next one. I'm hoping that we get a chance to talk about this one because now we know there was a report actually submitted to ESPN. Bruin center Marc Savard now reporting apparently he's having trouble with his memory, literally not being able to remember details. Now, to me, obviously, we're still in the wake of this Pacioretty and Chara incident, but is this the most disturbing or maybe the most upsetting news? For me, it really is, because you're talking about a guy now life-altering just as a result of these concussions. Is this the most disturbing incident for you?
Yeah,
Brian?
I think without a doubt. You know, when you make the comment about the Pacioretty, and you know, it was a scary incident right off the start, no doubt. And anytime you're talking about a guy, you know, cracking or fracturing a vertebrae, it becomes very, very scary. But in the big picture, he's a 4 to 6 week guy. He's going to be back. He's going to play. He may even play again this season.
Right.
Whereas Marc Savard, this is starting to get more and more serious the more information that comes out. Anytime you start talking about long-term memory loss and not being able to recover from concussions, a second major concussion, you know, in a couple of seasons, it becomes very scary. And you know, every day-to-day life starts to get affected, and you know, that becomes a very scary thing.
So then going from there to taking it almost one step further, we were talking a little bit off camera about this visor issue. I mean, Don Cherry's the first one to always say, where are the visors, kids? They're going to save your eyes and everything else. You know, we talk about, you know, Malhotra just now having surgery on his eye and everything else. Do you think that this is a message that needs to be sent to the younger players? I mean, you're a junior coach. Aaron, do you think if you were playing in junior hockey that you'd be concerned about visors and everything else with all this stuff going on?
I think I'd probably wear a cage.
A cage?
A cage. Can't mess the space, no. It's one of those things where you think about it, and I think having a visor, you know, it protects your eyes at least. But when it comes to the Marc Savard incident, it all happened like last year with that blindside hit by Matt Cook.
Yeah.
Obviously, the league is trying to discipline all those players for the headshots, but that's the one thing that you look at, and you can think that that has to be, you know, eliminated from the game, and that's why, you know, that was the start of it. Marc Savard didn't play too many games this year, and just, I don't even think, excuse me, I don't even think it was a big hit that he took to get this other concussion. But
is this more upsetting to you than the Pacioretty-Chara, the Savard issue?
Oh, yeah, by far.
All right. We're going to move on now, talk a little baseball. Well, it's almost baseball. It's a little bit more of a legal issue. I'm calling this some bonds and bars. A little bit of revealing testimony yesterday from Barry Bonds' romantic relationship. My question to you guys is, Ryan, you go first. Could you be a juror in this case? Would you be able to deliver a verdict without a bias or anything like that affecting it?
Not a chance.
No, why not?
Well, I think the biggest issue is, for me, I don't know whether he's right or wrong. I liked him as a baseball player.
Sure.
I thought he was entertaining. You know, I thought he brought a lot of entertainment to the game, a lot of excitement to the game. And so when I'm sitting there, if I'm sitting in the juror's box and I'm looking at him, I'm probably seeing Barry Bonds, the one that was standing in the batter's box, not the one that lied to Congress.
Okay.
And obviously nothing was off limits for his ex-girlfriend there that came in and gave some pretty revealing news. So.
Would you be able to be a juror, Strack?
You know this about me. I'm a huge Barry Bonds fan. He's probably my favorite player. Well, next to Roberto Alomar all time.
Okay.
And it's really hard. I could never do it. Like, I couldn't. Obviously, we were talking about it earlier this morning, and I couldn't do it. No. I still think he's...
You see him the same way that Ryan sees him.
I still think he's not guilty.
The sun shining down on him, ready to just
it was like to the point where, yeah, like Ryan was saying, it was entertaining to watch him, you know, go for the home run record and, you know, break Mark McGwire's record.
And you still hold him up on this pedestal? None of this
like
has changed your
it's to
opinion
the point where it wasn't, my whole case with it was, it wasn't really illegal in baseball. You know what I mean? It was part of the time of baseball. It seems like everybody could have been doing it.
I'm rolling my eyes.
But, you know, it's to the point where...
You need like some cheese with your wine over here.
He better make it into the Hall of Fame.
It doesn't make it right, but I agree with what you're saying.
Okay.
It's like they're going back and penalizing players for a rule that wasn't a rule.
Like Roger Clemens as well. He can be in the same situation. Probably the best pitcher in baseball history. and he could be going to jail.
Fortunately, now we get to move on because Shrek's going to continue on his Barry Bonds love affair rant. We're going to talk a little bit. I want to get into this NFL situation with the lockout, but more what it means for us here in Canada, because Eskimos recently brought in Brandon James. It seems like a lot of teams, and at least at Tillman and Edmonton, are getting rid of a lot of their costly import players to make room for some new up-and-comers. Now, with this lockout issue, guys like Andy Fantuz can't come back just because they're in a lockout. If you've got an existing contract, you're tied to the NFL. Do you think that we're going to start seeing a lot of maybe these draft picks? Do you think there's going to be an influx now of import content in the CFL? And do you think that's a good or a bad thing for the Canadian Football League?
I think yes and no a little bit.
Okay.
I think there will be some guys that are tweeners at the NFL level that are unsure whether they'll get signed as free agents following the NFL draft that may look to come up a little bit quicker than they had previous. But a big key to those NFL players that are coming up here is it's a 2-year contract. You can have to sign at the CFL level, a 1-year minimum contract plus a club option the next year. So they're tying themselves up for 2 seasons. And if anyone knows how the longevity of an NFL career is very short, to take 2 seasons off, off your career is a big number for a lot of those players.
You think it's a good or bad thing for the CFL?
I think it's a great thing.
Really?
Like, you always think about, when you look at the NFL, you look at the top athletes. I'm nothing against the CFL, but all those guys that go to college in the States, they want to make it to the NFL. Like, there's Tom Brady, Peyton Manning. If those guys came up to the CFL, lights out. But we don't see those top-end athletes usually up here. And I can see that now with this maybe lockout looming, some of these guys that aren't under contract, like maybe Willis McGahee, former Baltimore Raven, you could see him maybe up here, like kind of like the whole Ricky Williams thing.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Where a lot of those guys kind of decide to come up here, play for a year, and a lot of the CFL teams have allotted some extra room just in case that happens.
All right, we're going to move on now. Go back to hockey briefly. You call us on the Can Canucks. Gosh, it looks like the pendulum is just couldn't be swinging any more in their favor. You've got Sedins, looks like you got Ross, you've got President's Trophy, you've got Stanley. Is this going to be their year? Is this the year for the Canucks?
It's so tight, it's tough to say. They've had an incredible regular season, but I think there's about 10 teams that can argue that they're going to be right in the mix for the Stanley Cup. And you look how tight just the playoff races are. Our teams wearing themselves down, or our teams preparing themselves for playoffs, and that's going to be a big key moving forward. But right now they look very strong. Roberto Luongo stays hot.
Okay, I'm glad you brought him up. Theo Fleury talked to the radio station in Calgary, said Luongo's soft. He won't be the guy. If anything, he's going to hurt them going forward. Do you agree or disagree with that?
It's one of those things where, if the Canucks are going to win the Cup, it has to probably be this year.
Okay.
Just because of how they are doing.
Do you think Luongo's too soft?
I don't think he's too soft. I think he's got big game experience now. The Olympics definitely helped him out from the big game experience. And you got to lose before you win. I think he's experienced that over the last few playoff runs, and he knows what it's take. And again, he's going to have to be a key for them. But I think he's got big game mentality.
Okay. Hopefully they don't play the Chicago Blackhawks first round.
Oh, jeez. All right. Well, before we get the chance to hash that out, we have to take another break. But stay tuned because we're going to get to play Who Am I next. That's coming up on The Gloves Are Off.